It from a mom-and-pop operation on the St. John's waterfront to an internationally recognized group of 6 companies with more than 400 employees. He has been a leader with many organizations over his career. In 2009, at the age of 59, Jerry retired. After a run for federal office, of which I'm sure he'll make some comments about in a few minutes, Jerry returned to his first passion, business. In 2012, he became a partner in Ocean Delight Cottages Limited in White Way. The cottages now have the distinction of having the #1 ranking on the TripAdvisor for Newfoundland and Labrador. Congratulations, Jerry. For those who haven't had a chance to see the Weekend Telegram, there's a great story on the summit, a great conversation with Jerry, and a lovely photo of Jerry and his dogs. Ladies and gentlemen, Jerry Byrne.
Thank you, Christina. That's a special touch. Thank you very much. So let me start by saying, becoming a boomer is not for the faint of heart. As boomers, we are experiencing a time of great change and transition. Some pleasant and some not so pleasant. I was at the gym there about a week ago, and this beautiful young woman, and most women are now younger, came over. She came into the gym, and so I said to my trainer, I said, what machine should I use to impress that young lady? He said, well, I would suggest you use the ATM out in the lobby. I said, thanks a lot. I was out having a few drinks with some of my classmates a little while ago, just actually one of my classmates, and we were sitting at the bar and we were talking about aging because we graduated in 1977 and we were all starting to age. And I said to him, I said, Jeremy, I said, look at those 2 guys over there. I said, look at them. I said, it won't be long before we look just like them. He said, you moron, it's a mirror, it is us. I said, oh, all right. Way to go, Jeremy. And then I was talking to another one of my friends, and he said that he had confided in his wife after 40 years that he was having an affair. And I said, Pete, are you insane? What did she say? She said she was wondering if it was going to be catered. I said, yeah, we're getting old. We're getting old. So, I'm not sure, are you familiar with the eagle, the bald eagle? It's the longest lifespan of any of its kind. And it can live up to 70 years. But in order to survive that long, it must overcome some very difficult challenges when it is no longer able to do what it once did. What happens to it is, the once long talons, the flexible talons, are no longer flexible. It can't catch prey to eat. Its beak bends over, and it can't consume food even if it had it. And the feathers on its chest and over its body are old, and they cling to its chest, and it can hardly fly. So the eagle at that point in time, after about 40 years, has a decision to make. It has to decide whether it wants to die, or whether it wants to go through a transformation that I'm going to tell you about. So, what it does, it takes 150 days to go through that transition. The eagle flies to the mountain, gets in its nest, and the first thing it does, it beats its beak off, beats it to pieces until it's completely destroyed. Then a new beak comes back. And then after the beak comes back, it uses the beak to pull out every one of its talons one by one. And when the talons come back, it then uses the talons to pull the old feathers off its body, and then it takes, like I said, 5 months, and after 5 months, the eagle then has its flight. It's called famous flight of rebirth. It takes off, and it lives to another 30 years after going through that painful process of transformation. And there's a friend of mine here tonight, his name is Joe O'Neill, and Joe just went through a battle with cancer, a very, very similar transition. And he came out, and Joe will definitely get another 30 years out of it. Congratulations, Joe. So life is all about making transitions. It is about change. Life is forever constant. You're a child, a teenager, a young man, an older man, and so on. And it's about transition. I just had a wonderful late transition. I got to show it to you. This is exactly what I did. when I left St. John's on December the 15th and went out around the bay to become a bayman, I bought these t-shirts, one for me and one for my partner. I don't know if you can see this or not. And it's the way you have to embrace change. I got the t-shirt, right? And it says, Townie turned bayman. That's on the front, and I knew I was going around the bay. I didn't know anything about being a bayman. So I knew I was going to need a lot of help. So I had, on the back of the shirt, I put, help, I'm outside the overpass. And it's been a phenomenal experience. Really one of the greatest experiences of my life. I grew up in Torbay, a family of 14, and I left home at the age of 21 in search of my holy grail. Here I am, 40 years later, and in the words of Rod Stewart, Mother, what a journey, you wore me out. Until the past year, I was a townie to the core. After 62 years of living in big cities or near big cities, in St. John's, Canada, United States, and so on. In the last 7 years, I took on the DFB group. In that time, like Christine said, we grew from 12 employees to 450 employees, from one company to 6, and from 1 million in revenue to 80 million in revenue. Then in June of 2008, there was a game changer. My dearest friend, my brother of 57 years, suddenly passed away. His name was Jack. Great name, Jack. Yeah, and as many of you surely can relate, this made me take a step back and look at my own life. The business was growing rapidly in Alberta, and I was on 9 different volunteer boards, on the boards of the D.F. Byrne's companies, and on a couple of other private sector boards. I found myself answering emails 24/7. It was relentless. And at that age, I was going up and getting going to the bathroom 5 or 6 or 7 times a night, and every time I went to the bathroom, I sat down and answered emails. It was, here I was, you know, I insisted my employees get a life, and here I was, living alone, 59 years old, working untold hours, never getting enough sleep, and nowhere close to keeping my promise to be retired by 60. But not long after that, an opportunity came along to sell my shares, and by December 2009, the deal was done. 2 months later, I was in Thailand, trying to find myself. Thailand, you gotta go there. It was a mind-bending, paradigm-shifting event for me. I had traveled all over the world, except for the Far East. I don't regret much in my life. I don't regret anything in my life. But I can tell you one thing, if I had gone to Thailand when I was in my 20s, I would have had a totally different life path. No doubt about that whatsoever. Then I came home, and I bought the car that I always wanted, and I took a long road trip from St. John's to Florida. I spent a lot of time with my oldest daughter, Adrian, who lives in Virginia, and has a master's degree in gerontology. Should you ask for better? Like a master's degree in gerontology. Accidental, I think not. But anyway, someone to look after me when I get old. But like she says, I have lots of time. She calls 80-year-olds young. We talked a lot about aging, and we put together my plan to live to be 102. Then I picked up my youngest daughter in New Orleans and drove across the United States, up the California coast, all the way to her home on Galiano Island, off the coast of British Columbia. Spending so much time with my grown-up daughter was another mind-bending, paradigm-shifting event for me. All these years that I thought I had done these wonderful things for her were not that great. And the things that I thought I had half done, she said they were great. Go figure, right? Children never change. And from there, I drove back across Canada, stopping when I felt like it, dropping in to see my friends along the way as I passed through the cities, and I continued to reflect on my 59 years of living. But now, my daily adventures were different. I was no longer struggling with the burden of cash flows and strategic meetings and planning and personnel and networking and on and on. In Thailand and on the road, taking a deep breath was all I needed to sustain me. My calendar was empty, my piggy bank was full, my biggest concern was where am I going to stay tonight. Finally, I wasn't driven by a calendar. I didn't need a plan. I was content to sleep in my SUV if I couldn't find a hotel. Well, life was good. No, life was awesome. But I wasn't home long when a gypsy spirit invaded me. I couldn't stay still. I wanted to do something. Problem was, I didn't know what. My time in Thailand, traveling, and driving around the perimeter of North America gave me lots of time to think. But it wasn't a way of life. It was a way of casting off the stress of my old life. Not unlike the eagle that casts off its beak, its talons, and its feathers, I was recuperating from a lifetime of hard work, urgency, raising a family, living the struggle, and struggling with the living. It was now late fall, and I had all the rest that I could handle. And I decided I couldn't rest anymore. I kept saying, I am 60, but I feel like 40. I'm planning to live to be 102, but what now? What am I going to do in the lower 40 of my life? I still hadn't figured it out. So I was determined to find something gratifying and to give something back for all the grace and blessings that were bestowed on me over my entire lifetime. So I hopped in the SUV again and headed back out on the road, this time to visit my daughter, number 2, in Vancouver, and make it like a 2-year trip. I was determined. Right? So something happened. We came back from skiing at Whistler, and we learned the shocking news that Danny Williams had resigned. And after 2 bottles of wine, maybe 3, I decided to take up where my brother Jack had left off and to run for office. I figured if Danny Williams could make such a difference, and Jack had made such a difference, then it was time for me to step up to the plate and fulfill my promise to Jack and to run for office. And I can tell you, I worked tirelessly. I admire these politicians. I knocked around day in and day out. 5 a.m. to 1 a.m. 5 a.m. to 1 a.m. from December 27th right on to the election. And I worked like a Tasmanian devil. Right? And I never worked so hard and took such a beating in my life. How much of a beating did I take? Well, let me put it this way. If everybody had voted 3 times like I'd asked them to, I might have won. Right? That's the kind of beating I took. Right? It was amazing. But the highlight of the campaign, I got to tell you this one. It was a fantastic experience. I can tell you, it was worth every minute I put into it. I was up on University Avenue, and I go up and I knock on the door, and a young fella comes out. He's about 20 years old, and I'm passing my brochure. I said, "Hi, I'm Jerry Byrne, your Conservative candidate for St. John's East." So I heard some people in the background, and this girl sings out. She says, "Who's out there?" So the young fella turns around and says, "It's the Conservative candidate from St. John's East." She said, "Tell the gay bashing bastard to F off," and slammed the door in his face. and the guy was like, "Oh." So I go, "Okay, slam it now." I was with Bob Ridgely at the time. We had a great laugh over it. It was I do it all over again every minute. I'm not sure I'd want to win, because the life that these guys got is not a fit life, I can tell you right now. But the election didn't go my way, and I still couldn't rest. I knew I needed something, and the campaign reaffirmed that I still had the drive and energy needed to do some serious work. Reflecting on the wisdom I had gained, my road trips, my daughters, and I did an inventory of what I had to offer. I looked at my personal attributes, the good and the bad. I looked at my business acumen over the years, what I believed in, what I loved to do, and what I didn't. And most importantly, I realized I believed in the basic drive, which is success is never giving up. So, as Calvin Coolidge more eloquently put it, persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. I have learned that. It was always my guiding light. It was always my mantra. So armed with that knowledge and the personal inventory and all the experience that these gray hairs have given me, I set out to search for a match. I didn't want something that would steal my life away. I wanted balance. I wanted to have some fun. I wanted something that would help me achieve my goal to live to be 102. So when my partner and I went up to Ocean Lake Cottages in small town Trinity Bay for a weekend, and they were selling 4 out of 8 cottages, we talked them into selling the whole works. 8 cottages, the house, the boat, the quad, the truck, the whole bucket full of stuff that I never had before in my life. Yeah, it was a perfect match. I was back in the game. Bought the t-shirt, yeah, and did something completely different. I went from an industrialist engineer to a tourism operator, a Walmart leader. And a townie became a bayman in December of 2011. A most wonderful transition. We knew we knew there would be a learning curve. Doing something completely different always has one. But it's been almost a year now, and we haven't looked back. The people are amazing out there. The community has completely embraced us as we have embraced it. The government has all kinds of programs to help out and to mitigate risk. I had a chance to write at the ocean's edge with the magical Shag Rock as my muse. If you look at the picture in the weekend paper, that's my muse, Shag Rock. It was gorgeous. So every day since I went out there in December, I've written a blog. Check it out at www.oceandelightcolleges.com. Far be it from me not to shamelessly promote myself. And I now use Facebook and Twitter every day. We have a wonderful website. I am connected. I get a chance to be creative every single day. Life is good. No, life is awesome. And it was so much easier this time. When you retire, suddenly all your responsibilities drop away. And everyone expects you to be spending time golfing and on the beaches in Florida and watching matinee movies. But if you're anything like me, or that bald eagle, it can be exciting. It can be an exciting reformation and a rebirth. My daughter loves yoga, and she gave me this quote from Vishnu Ghosh, one of yoga's great gurus. He said, and this is one that Joe O'Neill can testify as well, it's never too late, it's never too bad, and you're never too old or too sick to start from scratch again. But that doesn't mean starting from scratch will be easy. It took me months of pursuing dead ends, months of self-examination and research before setting out on my new career. It would have been much easier to take up golf and spend my time sitting on the beach, just like it would have been easy for the gull to die than to go through that painful process of rebirth. But rebirth is worth fighting for. And the good news is, while it has been challenging, and I've made mistakes, plenty of them, starting a new venture now feels so much easier. Unlike when you were in your 20s and you started out and everything you ran up against was new and challenging, you didn't have the connections, you didn't have the knowledge, and it was a big deal. Now you have a lifetime experience. You have been there before, or somewhere much like it. And if you haven't been there, you know people who have been there. And you know people who have the answers that you need to be answered. So how awesome is that? Think about that. How awesome is that? You're never stuck. You've been there before. Right? You bought the t-shirt. You can make decisions confidently and quickly. You have the advantage and the power of experience. When the eagle takes flight after its rebirth, he already knows how to fly. All he has to figure out is how high he wants to fly. That's the beauty of the rebirth that we all go through. So from here you have two choices as I see it. Are you going to retire, or are you going to be reborn? When my girls graduated from university, I gave them this book called Dr. Seuss, from Dr. Seuss. I'm not sure if you guys have seen it or not. It's called, Oh, the Places You'll Go. It is the most fantastic book. And when you graduate, I give it to a lot of people after they graduated. And then I read it myself when I retired, time and time again. And I realized that I had just graduated from the University of Hard Knocks. I read the book in a totally different context. Here's a passage from the book, and I recommend everybody read this book. It says, congratulations, today is your day. You're off to great places, you're off and away. You have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. You're off to great places, today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way. That book is even truer today than it was when I graduated from Memorial University. It is the most wonderful book of wisdom and common sense. So, to summarize, you didn't get here where you are today by accident. None of you. It was a result of a lot of hard work, lots of mistakes, plenty of good and bad decisions, and lots of good and bad luck. You have so much knowledge, you have so much to offer, you've gone platinum. Not silver, you've gone platinum. You can retire, or you can go golfing. You can retire and go golfing, or you can change and be reborn. The choice is yours. I have heard people say, I wish I knew when I was 40 what I know today. And I say, I am grateful for everything I know and be damned what age I am. I'll leave you with a newsflash. Today's 60 is yesterday's 40. Today is my day. I'm off to great places. Are you coming with me? That's the question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jerry.